You don't even know how to begin talking about a race like that without just staring in disbelief. If you watched it live, you felt the exact second everything changed. One moment the action was intense, cars battling inches apart, every position being fought for like only a superspeedway can deliver. Then in an instant, it all exploded into chaos. And this wasn't just another crash. This was the type of wreck that flips the entire race upside down, erases contenders in seconds, and leaves everyone arguing afterward. It was the kind of reminder NASCAR gives every so often that at tracks like Talladega, one tiny mistake can destroy half the field before anyone has time to react. Something happened out there that has drivers upset, fans split, and people throughout the garage once again debating where aggressive racing ends and reckless driving begins. And once you hear how it unfolded and what was said after, it hits even harder. Before we dive in, if you're a true NASCAR fan, hit that like button and subscribe. NASCAR Nation Report is growing fast, and we're chasing 1,000 passionate fans who live for this sport every single week. Now let's talk about what happened, because this race turned wild in a hurry. The moment came on lap 116 during Stage 2 at Talladega Superspeedway. Anyone who knows that track understands danger is always one move away. At the front, everything looked normal. Tight drafting, cars packed together, speeds close to 200 miles per hour. No room for error. Right in the center of the action were Bubba Wallace and Ross Chastain. Then it happened. There was slight contact. Chastain got into Wallace, and that tiny touch changed everything. Wallace's car snapped sideways, slammed toward the outside wall, and suddenly the rest of the field had nowhere to escape. Within seconds, it became the dreaded big one. Cars crashing from every direction, smoke covering the track, impacts in multiple lanes. More than 26 cars were caught in the mess. This wasn't just a pileup, it was a massive elimination of contenders all at once. You could hear the shock from the broadcast booth as voices reacted in real time, saying it looked like nearly the entire field was involved. And honestly, that didn't feel exaggerated. Drivers behind the wreck had almost zero visibility. Tire smoke swallowed the racing surface. At those speeds, they were driving blind, hoping to miss disaster. One reaction summed it up perfectly. It looked like a parking lot. When everything finally stopped, the damage list was brutal. Kyle Larson, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, William Byron, Cole Custer, and Bubba Wallace were all out. In one instant, several major names were gone. NASCAR immediately displayed the red flag as safety crews rushed onto the track. Wrecked cars were scattered everywhere. The scene looked like total destruction. But the real fire started after the crash. Inside the garage, emotions were boiling over. Several drivers voiced frustration toward Wallace, not necessarily blaming him for everything because superspeedway crashes are rarely caused by one person alone, but many felt the racing in the middle of the pack had become too aggressive, and that's always the biggest question at Talladega. How hard can you race before it crosses the line? To Wallace's credit, he didn't hide from the moment. After climbing from the car, he spoke openly and sounded disappointed for his team. He admitted they still need to learn how to manage pushes better and said drivers have to do a better job handling that kind of contact in these situations. I'll take responsibility for it. That part matters because not every driver is willing to say that after a wreck of this size, but by then the damage had already been done. Ryan Blaney spoke afterward about how quickly things spiral out of control with the current car, and he has a point. The room for mistakes is incredibly small. Joey Logano also mentioned the next-gen car, saying once contact is made, the cars can lose balance almost instantly. We've seen that happen more than once. Even Bob Pockras summarized it perfectly in real time. A huge crash involving Wallace, Blaney, Logano, and several others, bringing out the red flag. And that really tells the story. This wasn't just another accident. It was another reminder of how risky and unpredictable superspeedway racing still is. One shove, one wrong angle, one slight miscalculation, and suddenly half the field is destroyed. Now when you look at the bigger picture, this changes a lot. Top playoff contenders lose valuable points. Teams suffer expensive damage. Momentum can disappear in seconds. It also reopens an old debate inside the garage. How aggressive should drivers be in these draft packs? Because at Talladega, you have to be bold, you have to push limits, you have to race aggressively if you want to win. But this is also what happens when it goes wrong. For fans, that's the difficult part. The same chaos that makes Talladega thrilling is also what makes it unforgiving. Heading into the next few races, everyone will be watching to see how drivers respond. Do they race smarter and calm things down, or do they keep pressing the edge, knowing another massive wreck could happen at any time? Either way, this crash won't be forgotten soon. So what do you think? Was this simply normal superspeedway racing, or did the aggression in the middle of the pack go too far? Share your thoughts in the comments. Now here's my honest view on the whole situation. I believe this was absolutely a classic Talladega Big One. But at the same time, you can't ignore the choices being made in the center of that pack. What happened with Bubba Wallace is something we see repeatedly on superspeedways. He received a push, the car became unstable, and once that happens in the next-gen car, it usually ends badly. These cars don't recover easily after contact at those speeds. Still, I understand why other drivers were frustrated. When you're running inches apart at nearly 200 miles per hour at Talladega, every detail matters, positioning matters, timing matters, how you receive a push matters. And if anything feels slightly wrong, it can trigger exactly what we just witnessed, a wreck that wipes out half the field. So when drivers like Blaney and Joey Logano speak out, I don't see it as blaming one person. I see it as frustration with the bigger issue. The margins are razor-thin, while the consequences are massive. What I respect most is that Wallace owned his part in it. Many drivers would avoid the topic or shift blame elsewhere, but he stepped forward, said they need to manage pushes better, and accepted responsibility. That says a lot about him. At the same time, this wasn't only on him. Ross Chastain was involved in the first contact, and the truth is this style of racing almost guarantees moments like this eventually happen. To me, the real problem isn't one driver, it's the combination of hyper-aggressive pack racing and a car that becomes unstable the second it gets touched, and the result is exactly what we saw. Kyle Larson, William Byron, Cole Custer, and many others eliminated with no real chance to avoid it. That's the part that never feels right. Yes, it's exciting, yes, it's part of what makes Talladega legendary, but sometimes it feels like too much of the outcome depends on survival rather than pure racing skill. So my honest opinion, this wasn't just bad luck.